Hello and welcome back. Eddie Radosevich, George Stoya here from the SoonerScoop.com studios. A bye week for Oklahoma. Welcome back to the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel. Not a lot going on, right?
No.
We did talk to Brent Venables on Wednesday night, talked to a number of the players, including Michael Hawkins Jr., who you'll hear from during the presentation today. But it's a bye week. Then you head into what is, obviously one of the bigger weeks of the year in OU, Texas.
Biggest game of the season. So I kind of like it, though, Eddie. We were talking about an unofficial 40. First time since 2006 that there's a bye week before
It's unusual.
OU, Texas.
And
I love
it's
it.
even more unusual that the friends down in Austin, they're also on a bye week, coming off of their first SEC win over Mississippi State. Obviously got a little bit of the Quinn Ewers news coming out on Wednesday, I believe, that he's slated to get back to it next week for the Oklahoma game. But a lot of intrigue, obviously. Oklahoma heading into the Cotton Bowl 4-1. That's been discussed here. Everybody, I think still resonating with everything that came from the win in Auburn and the way that it happened.
Yeah, huge win, emotional win, right? We saw how Oklahoma celebrated that win, and rightfully so, right? When you come from behind, down 11 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you have every right to celebrate that. It felt like maybe a season-defining moment for Oklahoma, but now they have to move on, right? And I think that this bye week is good timing. You always hear that. It's like, it's great time for the bye week, right? It's never a bad time for the bye week.
Maybe this one, though, it hits a little bit different
perfect.
than it has. Obviously, with the injury situation for Oklahoma, we'll see who's going to be in, who's going to be out going into next week. Let's hit on that real quick, though. Deshaun McCullough is going to be available going into next week for the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, huge, especially when you talk about that cheetah position, losing Kendall Dolby, which was a big blow for Oklahoma defensively. Getting a Deshaun McCullough back just gives you an extra guy, right? Samuel Masigo's been playing really well there. We've seen some Woody Washington there, which, Brent said last night when we talked to him that he's been playing a little bit banged up the last couple of weeks. So good week for him to get healthy. On the offensive side of the ball, Deion Burke sounds kind of 50-50. We don't really know.
It's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't think that he's been very active within practice. This week, by the way, you'll hear from Brent here in a second, but the practice schedule a little bit different than they usually go with during a bye week. Practice Monday, practice Wednesday, practice actually Thursday morning as we get done here with the week, and then the players will be off throughout the weekend.
Yeah, guys will be able to go home and things like that. In terms of other injuries, Taylor Tatum, I think he'll be back.
Sure.
It sounds like he's progressing well. Nick Anderson, Andrell Anthony, can't count on them right now. I just don't think that we're going to see them for a while.
I am a little bit slightly more optimistic in terms of Andrell Anthony moving forward, and I would even say post like South Carolina. So we're talking about 3 weekends from now.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm with you with that, but I'm also one of those people that's like, I want to see it before I believe it. And so those guys, but the other guys, I think you feel really good about the offensive line. We'll hear from Jake Taylor. Sounds like he's doing a lot better, but that's the healthiest that group's been. And everywhere else, you're starting to get some guys back, so you feel pretty good. And this is a good bye week to. You mentioned Deion Burke sitting out. I'm sure there's several guys that have some bumps and bruises that they're like, hey, let's not push it. Give them a week off.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It will be interesting. Obviously coming off of the massive season-defining, maybe the biggest victory of Brent Venables' career, certainly on the road, right? And that was kind of one of the humps that we didn't really talk about last week was Oklahoma. They were in a lot of games last year, and they were never able to find a way to win some of those games, the bigger games, on the road. You look at the 2 losses a season ago in the regular season at Kansas as well as Oklahoma State. I don't know. If nothing else, you were able to get over that hump, and then the way that they did it is kind of the cherry on the top.
Yeah, and I think it was we asked Brent about this last night, but the handling of success, because last year they had a huge emotional win against Texas, and that's a little bit different than the Auburn win, but it was a big one. They had the bye week. They came back, did not play well against UCF. That came down to a 2-point conversion that Oklahoma had to stop. Shout out, I think it was Kendall Dolby that came up with the play in that game. And then the next 2 weeks, they go on the road, biggest games of the season. And really, if OU just splits those 2 games, right? If they just split those 2, you're playing Texas again in the Big 12 title game, maybe with a chance to go to the playoffs. So, disappointing last year. I think that's in the brains of everyone inside that program, everybody that was on that team a year ago. Because, when I brought up the bye week, yesterday to Brent, he gave a very clear answer of like, oh, yeah, we haven't forgotten about where, we laid those eggs last year.
No doubt about it. Here is Brent Venables on Wednesday night, as well as a number of the players, just talking about headed into the bye week, handling a little bit of a success coming off of the Auburn win, and moving forward into OU Texas?
No, we lost 2 back-to-back games, 1-score games where we couldn't get it down the last minute of the game. Turned the ball over 6 times in those 2 games. So, the first part of the season we took care of the ball, and those 2 games, that 2-game stretch we didn't, and then we took care of the ball again and finished the season. I think that was 3 straight, wins. So you got to take care of the ball. You got to get your mind right in regards to the basics, the fundamentals. You can't ever lose your edge for that. When you do, you get exposed, and that's what happened.
I think it's just having a conscious notice of kind of how what happened last week, to really just be on top of that, especially for the younger guys, who haven't really handled a bye week, especially after coming off a big win, and just kind of keep on stacking days and just keep on getting better.
Just being consistent, focus on the little details that we need to get better at, and myself that I need to get better at going into this Texas game. And then when next week comes, just tune in on the game plan and get it going from there.
You got to treat it like a professional. It's not really time off. You got to be active in your recovery, in your film, and even at the practice. When we have an opportunity, you just got to take the most out of it and just keep getting better.
You got to get some work in. You got to get better. You have to improve. You can't improve by doing walkthroughs for 3 or 4 days. And every team's different. And this is a team that probably a little bit less banging, but we were in full pads today and did lots of good on good. And that's. You want guys to, if you're going to get exposed, you want them to get exposed out here on the practice field, and just we worked a lot of situationals, but tomorrow we won't be in full pads tomorrow. We weren't in full pads on Monday.
It was a pretty big ask, and you saw him there of Michael Hawkins going on the road, making his first career start. Now we transition into OU Texas week. He'll become the first true freshman to start in the game for Oklahoma ever, which is just absolutely bonkers to think about.
Yeah.
But it's obviously, like we talked about, just the way that he's able to, the composure, everything like that. It might be a little bit different test come next Saturday, or I guess a Saturday from now, a week from now, when we're talking about making that stage that is the Cotton Bowl that, people can make a name in that game, right?
Well, and we've all felt it, right? The swings in momentum, making sure that you're not too high, you're not too low. You hear that cliche all the time in football. Michael Hawkins has to be the epitome of that in this game. And you loved what you saw on the road at Auburn, and that's great. And, that's one of the most hostile environments in college football. But OU Texas is just different, man. Yeah. It's just a different environment. It's not a road game. It's not a home game. It's this crazy in between, and I think everything we've seen from Michael has been really good. The composure, the poise, the communication at the line. We've talked a lot about that. I'm just really interested to see how he handles that, and he also hasn't made a big mistake yet. Sure. That's coming. That's going to happen at some point. He's going to, turn the ball over or get sacked in a big moment that he can't, or have a bad penalty, whatever it is. Something like that's going to happen. He's a true freshman. That's going to happen. So how does he respond to that? I'm curious to see that. But talk about a huge moment. I don't know. It just feels like, though, when we talk to him, nothing really gets to this guy. I don't even know.
Never
we were
too
talking
high,
about it.
never too low. Very, I would say, almost to a certain extent, unemotional.
Yeah.
In just
quiet.
In the limited times that we've been able to talk to him so far, I think that the one thing that has been true, we talked about it on the Instant Reaction Report. Obviously on Saturday night after the game, we talked about it on the Unofficial 40, as well as the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast. There's something about him in that huddle, within that team, and within the offense that he's endeared himself to a lot of these guys that have been around the block before. And obviously with the way that he puts his body on the line, whether it's a good or a bad thing, right? It's going to be kind of fun to see them continue to coalesce here over the next couple weeks.
There's definitely something there behind the scenes that maybe we don't get to see as the media, and that's part of just him being a young guy and him kind of growing into that. But I think the players love him. I think they've rallied around him. I think that when he makes those type of electric plays that we've seen through him through the first 2 weeks that he's played, how could you not want to play for a guy like that who's putting his body on the line, trying to lead these drives when they're losing, whether it's in the Tennessee game and coming back late in that one, or the Auburn game, and being willing to take the shots down the field, complete them, right? I mean, that was a heck of a pass, but then on the 2-point conversion, put your body on the line. You want to see him slide a little bit. right? But I do think that players have clearly gravitated towards
I think
them.
it's easy to say, like, yeah, I'm going to slide in those situations, and then the competitiveness and the juice.
Well, I'm not saying he should slide on the 2-point conversion,
Sure,
or even the
no. I
touchdown
know what you
against
mean. You got to
Tennessee.
take care of yourself. That was
Right.
one thing that Kyler did so well. And for a shorter quarterback, he was able to take care of his body extremely well in positions that he could have been blown up.
Right. Well, and I think back to the one against Auburn where his mouthpiece goes flying, that one clip. And it's like, man, like that one was, I think it was only like a 3-yard gain. It's like, that's a position where like, hey man, just eat it. Maybe even lose a yard. It's okay. You don't have to do that. So it's those, not the flipping in the end zone was awesome. And you had to go
Makes
all
for
out
some
there.
unbelievable pictures and video.
But, when it's the second quarter and it's, 2nd and 8 or whatever, it's okay to slide or go out of bounds.
Kind of got to be comfortable with being like the most important guy on the team to a certain extent. Here is a little bit more on Oklahoma's starting quarterback, Michael Hawkins Jr. from Wednesday night with Brent Venables, as well as some of his teammates.
He's got to not try to win the game in the first drive of the game and play within the system, take care of the football. You do that, and you got good special teams, you got a good defense, and you can make some plays, with guys around you. You have a chance to win each and every week. And so you don't want the moment, the emotions of what that game means to everybody, the emotions that'll be in the stadium, the intensity to hijack the focus that it takes to have the details so we can execute at a really high level. Execution wins, not emotion, and not all the fans and everything else that's going to be going. So, between now and then, we've, as a staff, kind of just laid out there what he can expect. And again, every week, it's about us.
Just being consistent, like focus on the little details that we need to get better at, and myself that I need to get better at going into this Texas game. And then when next week comes, just tune in on the game plan and get it going from there.
Man, I went up to him after jumped over quite a few people, and I was like, man, I love the way you play. He puts his body on the line every single play, just like Jackson did. It's great to see someone who's willing to put their body, willing to sacrifice their body to get a win.
What was the toughest thing for you playing as a freshman? Is it getting over the fact that you're out there, that you're in high school a year ago?
Not even. It was just, toughest thing was knowing that the team is relying on me at such a young age. And it's just like, it's a blessing, but there were some sleepless nights that I had because I'm like, dang, I have to hurry up and get this right for my team, not for me, but I don't want to let my team down. I know he's going through that same thing probably because it's a much bigger role.
What do your coaches say when you flip into the end zone?
When the game's on the line, I have no other choice to, just trying to make a play for my team, sacrifice my body for them because they do the same for me, but they say just keep your body safe. Yeah.
You working on sliding at all too, maybe when the game's not on the line?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
There is something about that, though, that especially at the quarterback position, when you put your body on the line, kind of endear yourself to your teammates.
Yeah. No, it's you get some quarterbacks that are going to slide, run on bounds every single chance they get, but knowing when it comes down to crunch time, you're able to put your head down and get that first down, get that touchdown. It's amazing to see, especially as an O-lineman.
That'll be fun for Mike. I know it'll be a big moment for him, his family being from Dallas. And but at the end of the day, we're going to face a really good Texas team that's really balanced in all three phases. I don't know if they're 1 or 2 in the country. I haven't seen a poll, but they're up there, and they're playing really good. And so just execute the plan. Will be the game plan for him. And like I said, he's got to be somebody that's not too high, not too low, things of that nature.
Undoubtedly, it's going to be a really cool moment for the Hawkins family. Obviously, with Mike Jr. growing up in a legacy, a Sooner legacy in terms of his dad playing here.
Yeah.
I would imagine there's a couple Cotton Bowl stories and walking down the tunnel when Big Mike did it at when he was with Oklahoma. It's just there are some unique storylines going into next week. And oh, by the way, it's his first OU Texas experience.
I was just about to say that clip of him hugging his dad. We've shown it a few times on here, but I can only imagine what it would be like if they were able to go and win that game next Saturday. So
I think that's kind of where you look back over the years and the way that people make their names in this game.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, Dylan Gabriel did it last season, kind of stamping his legacy in terms of what it is to play at Oklahoma and play in this game particularly. There is another side of the whole quarterback situation at Oklahoma with Jackson Arnold that we want to get to. But first, we want to tell you about our good friends with Homefield, homefieldapparel.com. All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com. You can see right here on the screen or right in front of us. 15% off your first order using promo code SCOOP. They've come out with a couple new things here too. The heavyweight tees that is officially launched, 100% cotton garment dyed vintage fit cousin to the standard tee, so it's getting a little bit cooler out, which I think a lot of people welcome. And then they also have the campus classic pullover, very, very cool look. I kind of remember it's a little bit more vintage, but I remember the look that they had from the 90s. I know that there was a lot of people walking around Will Rogers Elementary School with them. Say what?
Oklahoma's is
coming out. October 24th is when the Southern collection will be available. They already have the Heartland collection that is out now. The Atlantic collection comes out on October 10th, as well as the Gold Coast on October 17th. So Oklahoma's in that final push there on October 24th.
Yeah, those are sweet. That K-State one, that's pretty cool. I might have to get my cousin that.
You think you'd wear it on the sidelines?
Yeah.
Possibly. That'd be cool.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be really cool.
Oh, you should wear Oklahoma's on the sidelines.
All you got to do is go to homefieldapparel.com, 15% off your first order using promo code SCOOP. Very, very easy to work, very easy to do. We both have had shipments come in, and I know that the Radosevich family was quite pleased with the haul that they had.
Stoya family's planning on wearing them. They're making the trip to Ole Miss in a few weeks, so they're planning on wearing that stuff out to Ole Miss.
We took that was like a pre-course run, if you will. It was like a practice run going down to Oxford.
You got to go through Memphis.
Going through Memphis, and then obviously on the way to Auburn this past week. But make sure you check out homefieldapparel.com, 15% off your first order. All right, let's get back into it. There is an interesting side now that obviously the quarterback decision has been made in Norman. Everything went well with Michael Hawkins Jr. He's going to make the first start next Saturday at the Cotton Bowl, second start overall. Jackson Arnold. What becomes of Jackson Arnold now? I think that everybody is well aware with when you're going to put your body on the line, maybe you're knock on wood, get injured. They would need Jackson Arnold to probably step in if that were to be the case.
It's a really tough spot to navigate, I think, for both Jackson as a player in his career and then also Oklahoma, because this coaching staff knows there's a chance, more than likely, that Jackson's maybe going to have to play at some point in the season, whether it be an injury, like you said, or maybe Michael Hawkins makes some mistakes and you want another spark, right? You saw it a couple years ago. We always talk about the Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams thing. People forget Caleb Williams was benched for Spencer Rattler in the Baylor game on the road late in that season. So anything's possible. And so from Oklahoma's point of view, as well as Michael's playing, and you hope that he just continues to get better and better every single week, and you don't have to do something like that, and you hope that he doesn't get hurt, you have to know that, hey, Jackson's one play away from getting back into the game. And then on Jackson's side, it's like, man, I was benched for this guy. He's having success, right? That's got to be tough for him on the sideline in some regards. And, you have the conversation of, does he want a red shirt and preserve an extra year if he were to transfer after the season? So it's a really tough conversation. I'm sure it's a little awkward for everybody involved. And I thought Brent gave a really good answer. I asked him, at the end of his little availability yesterday, just how's Jackson doing? Because it's something that I think's crossed all of our minds. You watch him on the sideline during the Auburn game. It seems like he's trying to stay engaged.
Sure.
But talk about just a really tough spot for a young player. Like we forget, I know Michael Hawkins is a true freshman, 18 years old. Jackson Arnold's only 19.
Sure.
Like he's still a really young football player, a really young guy. So, I think it's important for Oklahoma to try and keep him engaged, keep his spirits up, because like I said, he's one play away from being right back in this thing.
Here is Brent Venables' answer to George's question on Wednesday night. How is Jackson Arnold?
Jackson doing just
Great. I mean, that's my perspective, but we've worked hard to make sure he's got the right mindset, and everybody's got to roll. He's got to stay ready. He's got to stay ready, and so he's handled things great, really, really good in every way. Now more so than you'd probably think as a just your second year player, and incredibly probably disappointed. Would be naive if we didn't think that's not a piece of what he's going through, but I think he's got the maturity too. Like, I'm going to be better from this. And we've tried to put lots of different examples, from lots of different people, testimonials, and we do that nonstop for all of our guys. That's this game, that's life, and help guys manage, these moments, where you're going through a challenging time, some choppy waters.
Great form by me with the microphone yesterday.
Yeah, it was okay. We're going to work on some things, maybe some wrist movement a little bit.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. I was moving it.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was adequate.
Working on it. Hey, I learned from you. So
it was a bye week.
You're to blame.
It was a bye week. I'm probably to blame for just about everything around here. So that is interesting, though.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't want Michael Hawkins Jr. to get hurt, but Jackson Arnold has to stay ready. And I know that there's a lot of people that speculate and look at things online. And there's been a lot of this here over the last week in terms of, has he quit, or as you see it come across the country. It's happening at other programs. Right now, I think there's a feeling, though, that, I don't think that anything rash is going to happen. Jackson's not going to make any crazy decisions here.
It's too early in the season, right? Because again, you're one play away from being right back in there and having a chance to prove yourself, right? Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh boy, if Jackson goes back in, things will go south. How about the other side? What if Jackson, shows all the things that some of the glimpses that we've seen, he's able to put it together. Maybe he needed something like this to find some success. So I think that, Jackson probably has the right mindset. We haven't gotten to speak to him since it, but he doesn't strike me as a kid that's just going to quit and give up. And I think it's too early for him to make any of those decisions yet, but I think there's also a reality that there's probably some discussions behind the scenes of like, hey, if I'm not going to be the guy at some point, I think these discussions will happen. Maybe not yet. Is there a situation where they don't put him in the game? If they're up 50 against Maine, right? Like, that's a discussion maybe when they play Maine, but I think that he has to continue to stay locked in, continue to stay engaged in this team, because you just never know when that opportunity might present itself.
Something that went under the radar a little bit last night in terms of talking to Brent, it is good that they have somebody like a Casey Thompson that can kind of be, I don't know about a moderator, but a middleman or something just in that quarterback room.
He's seen it all.
Sure.
He has seen it all throughout his career. He's been in quarterback competitions. He's been in deep quarterback rooms with different guys, with different personalities. He's been around the sport more than I think anybody on this football team currently. So I think it's a great position to be in, to have a guy like that, and also as somebody that could maybe be your backup. So I think that they're very fortunate. It's funny because when they landed him, I think a lot of people are like, oh, okay, like you just added another quarterback that's not going to play. But I think it was bigger than that, and he's been able to help both those guys.
It's his birthday today too. So
happy birthday
Casey. To Casey Thompson. I saw that. I think it was Bauer Sharp. They must call him Pops.
Yeah.
Around the locker room,
the
because
old man.
He is one of the older players on the
he's
Oklahoma
like my
roster.
Age, I think. Isn't
really?
He? 20. He's like what? 24.
Yeah.
25. I'm 28.
Well, that's
I'm close.
Not your age at all.
Well, it's
I
not
think
your age either.
No, but as we get older, or as you get older, you will learn there's a big difference in a year.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know it is.
And you are now
when you hit 25, man,
you're officially getting to the older side of things.
You get closer to 30, it's downhill.
It's very depressing. That's okay, though. Let's talk Jake Taylor. We did talk to him yesterday, and it was good to see him get back out onto the field against Auburn. Obviously, a guy that we talked about after the Houston game. He's been battling it. I mean, he looked like he was about to almost keel over in that Houston game. Obviously, didn't play for the last couple of weeks, but good to get him back, that starting five, that unit that I think a lot of people coming out of spring and even going into the summer thought that's the starting five. You finally got to see it in a full game on Saturday.
He helps them a lot because all of a sudden you can move Tarquin back over to left, which is where you wanted to play him. You can move Sexton inside of that left guard spot that Oklahoma's been really struggling at. And so, again, I think that you want to see this offensive line continue to progress. But one of the issues for Oklahoma throughout this season so far has been they've had so many different guys playing different spots, playing positions that maybe they weren't working at during fall camp. Whereas you bring in Jake Taylor, that was their starting five throughout fall camp before these guys got hurt. So you feel a lot better about it. And also just speaking to Jake last night, I think he's become a leader in that room. Obviously a guy that's in his third year now at Oklahoma. They have a lot of, veteran transfers, guys that have played a lot of college football, but haven't played at Oklahoma. Sure. And so I think Jake is a good example of somebody that knows the standard, knows the expectations of a guy like Bill Beatenbow, knows what they want to do offensively, even though he hasn't played a ton in this system. I think that he helps them a lot in terms of communication and just leadership that maybe that room hasn't had yet so far this season.
Banged up might be putting it lightly, but here is Jake Taylor just kind of talking about getting through the first couple weeks while he did go through some spells of being banged up or whatever you want to call it. And then obviously his play against Auburn and the offensive line moving forward.
Characterize just how hard this has been this season for you, just fighting through injuries. It sounds like you've been pretty banged up.
Definition of bumps and bruises. Maybe a little bit more than that. But, yeah, I was fortunate enough to play in Houston for about a quarter and a half. Even that experience was amazing. And then was able to play all of Auburn. Great competition, great to knock the rust off and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's just been an amazing experience so far. Definitely been having to be tough through this journey. But almost to the end of the bumps and bruises journey, to say the least. It's funny enough, it was maybe 3 or 4 different high authority people are saying this is the closest line we've ever gotten, and it's kind of confusing when you look about how many transfers came into this group. But I don't know why this is probably the closest O-lineman group I've been in personally. I mean, we get dinner a few times a week. I mean, it's I haven't been in anything like this for sure.
Feel good to finally get that 5 out there. That was the 5 that I think a lot of people believe were going to be the starters coming in. And guys haven't really played a whole lot together.
Yeah, that was a healthy line going into the spring game, I want to say. Of course, the bumps and bruises were piling up on quite a few people throughout this offseason. But getting a stable line out there is amazing to see. Of course, all of us are still going through some stuff. But when we're able to finally get rest up, this bye week's going to be great for that. We're just going to get closer, the chemistry is going to get tighter, and we're just going to be better overall.
Was it good to finally get some stuff on tape too, just in terms of the run game? It looked like there's moments where it's like, okay, that's what you guys are looking for.
Yeah, no, of course the O-line definitely has to play better, but like we said, the chemistry is going to keep getting better every single week. I would like to say this was one of our highest rushes or yards per rush during the game, and it's potentially back to what you said, getting that starting 5 like we did for the spring game back out there, but I would love to see every game chemistry getting tighter and the yards per rush just getting higher and higher.
I believe the number was 4.1 per rush against Auburn. It was a step in the right direction. I mean, when you're coming from where they're coming from and basically minimal games at best or minimal gains at best per rush, it was a step in the right direction. You had a couple 12-yarders. You had the 16-yarder that was called back.
You and I were rewatching the game in the office the other day, and it was even like a 3 or 4 yard rush by Javonte Barnes, where we both looked at each other like, you can live with that.
Yeah,
like you can,
especially if it's inside your own 2-yard line or 1-yard line like that one.
It felt like they were, in the first 4 games, it was like 1 yard, 2 yards, no yards, losing yards. It's like, man, you'll take a 4-yard rush on first down, right? So I do think that you saw it start to come together a little bit more. I think they've been pretty good in pass protection. I thought that they were really good against Auburn. Only had a couple times that maybe a guy got beat, and that's going to happen, right? When you play in the SEC, there's really good football players. So overall, I think that the offensive line took a good step against Auburn. Now they've got another big test against Texas here in a couple of weeks, but if you can just keep getting that same 5 out there and you get some of these other guys healthy behind them, like a Troy Everett, who could maybe help you out with some depth, you got to feel a little bit better about where the offensive line was a couple weeks ago, where you don't even know who's going to be out there.
Most certainly, probably the most healthy that they have been
100%.
At any point this season moving forward. And you would think coming out of the bye week, if for nothing else, even a guy like a Jake Taylor, you're going to be definitely more healthy than you were here maybe over the last couple weeks. All right, very good. One more item to get to, but first we will tell you about PrizePicks. All you got to do is download PrizePicks, go to the website PrizePicks.com, or use the app, which is very easy to venture around on. All you got to do, put $5 in, you get $50 back instantly. All you got to do is use the code SoonerScoop and make your picks. What picks are you going to be going with this week?
Well, I'm on a heater. I think this is 3 straight weeks in a row that I've put out some winners here for you guys.
Okay.
So this week I'm taking 2 guys that played the best college football game a week ago, Georgia and Alabama.
Interesting.
Taking Carson Beck over 2.5 passing touchdowns against Auburn. I think Auburn. Look, I think they're a good football team. I think that game may have broke them. for the year. So
it'll be interesting to see how they come out and
I think
between the hedges. A tough ask after the
and I think
meltdown.
I think Beck's going to bounce back. Had a rough game at Alabama. I think he'll bounce back, have a big game. And then I'm taking Jalen Milroe over 1.5 passing touchdowns against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Alabama making their way up to Nashville this weekend. I think I saw earlier too the number that's out there for Alabama the last 3 meetings against Vanderbilt. It's like 184-3 is what they've outscored them, or it might have been 148. Either way, it was a lot to a little. I'm going to go this week with Cam Ward under 304.5. The Hurricane coming off of the, I guess, controversial win last Friday. They're headed out to Cal. That game's on the featured game on game day coming up this weekend. And then we'll go over to the baseball side. Thursday night, game 3 of the wild card series. Let's go Jackson Churio over 1.5 total bases.
Wow.
One of the
I like that
superstars.
baseball.
One of the superstars in Major League Baseball. Congratulations to Bobby Witt Jr. moving on with the
he's been
Royals
playing
to
great.
play the Yankees coming up in the divisional
Baseball's
rounds.
been really good, and I don't even watch baseball.
It's been awesome. All you got to do is go to, and you can play a bunch of baseball on PrizePicks. Download the app or go to PrizePicks.com. $5, get $50 instantly using the promo code SoonerScoop. One of the, not necessarily a surprise per se, but one of the bright spots from this true freshman class, along with Michael Hawkins Jr., has been the brother of Peyton Bowen, Eli Bowen. He's starting to play more and more here over the last couple of weeks.
He's been awesome. I think he is, according to Pro Football Focus, the highest graded corner for Oklahoma so far in coverage this season. So it tells you how good he's been. And, you know, he's not the biggest guy out there, but boy, can he run, and he's physical. I mean, I know he made some big tackles this last week at Auburn, but this is a kid that we heard about in fall camp, Eddie. Remember, we kind of heard it a couple weeks in. Eli Bowen starting to make a name for himself, was playing a couple different spots. I think he played maybe a little bit of cheetah in fall camp. Now he's out at corner, and he's playing really, really well, and I think he's pushing for more playing time. And we've seen it now the last couple weeks. I think it was 19 snaps against Tennessee, 29 this past week against Auburn. And for a secondary that's playing really well, has gotten beat, on a couple busted plays here and there. I just could see him, carving out a role for himself. But it shouldn't be a surprise, talking to Peyton the last couple years, the kid, the football IQ is off the charts for these kids. Talking to Eli for the first time last night, you can tell he just understands the game. And Brent said it during fall camp, said it again last night. The moment's just never too big for this kid. And that says a lot about a true freshman playing a position. We talk about quarterback, really tough position, obviously, for a true freshman to play. Cornerback is also a really tough position to play as a young guy. You have to be really confident in yourself, right? You have to be really physical. And I think that he's done a really good job.
This goes all the way back to the summer when Woody Washington was right here in studio talking about how fantastic his feet were and how impressed he was for a guy that had just basically just showed up on campus.
Yeah,
they just showed up for the summer workouts.
The fundamentals are off the charts.
No doubt about it.
He's just really solid at that.
Absolutely. Here is Brent Venables as well as Eli Bowen making his first midweek post-practice, appearance with the media on Wednesday night.
It's been good. I've been working on it since I've got here. So, it's good to see my work pay off.
What have you learned over the last couple of weeks that maybe you didn't know until you were actually out there on the field?
Nothing can really prepare you for the moment, like being on the field, being with the crowd. But, just trusting in what you've done up to this point is the only thing that you can really have, your preparation.
How helpful have the last couple of games been just in terms of building more of that confidence and more understanding when you're on the field?
It's definitely been a big stepping stone just because it's my first game I actually played for real. And, it just gave me confidence to know that I can be out there and play how I should be playing.
Yeah, it's just he's been sound. Young players, you want guys that when they get out there, they know what to do. And that's the responsibility of the player. The coach knows what he's good at, what his strengths are, what his weaknesses are. The player has to own, the responsibility of knowing what to do and knowing adjustments and know how to communicate. And so far, that's a piece of it that he's been really sound on. He's super coachable. Again, he's very skilled. His fundamentals he's ahead of the curve that way. And he's a tough guy. He doesn't say a whole lot. And you guys get to talk to him in a little bit. And So he's been the model of consistency, and he's always ready, you know. So that when I say the moment doesn't seem too big, that's a big part of it too. He's ready. So he's earned, you know, the opportunity to get, you know, more playing time, and he's going to be a really good player.
For me, the most important part was building the connections with the players, because it's hard to play without chemistry. So it's been easy because everyone's welcoming here and a family. So just having them trust in me is a big part of it.
Has it been any easier to kind of drop into that situation? You've got Peyton, all that stuff. Does he help that chemistry process?
Yeah, definitely, because I've come up here a lot, and I was close with most of the people here that came here already, so it definitely made it a lot easier.
Pretty cool that you got two brothers there in the OU secondary.
It's awesome, and you know, you probably got them for the next couple of years.
Sure.
Like, and it's, you know, when you talk about rebuilding this defense and what Brent Venables has done to get those two guys, who again, I think that you see that across the board with a lot of these guys that Brent's recruited. The football IQ, the fundamentals, they're off the charts, and I think that both those guys are playing really high level football right now, and it's great to see a guy like Eli. I mean, they've got a lot of young guys playing on this defense, man. When you look out there,
Michael Boganowski, Jaden Hardy made a couple
Jackson.
plays.
I mean, we forget
Jackson.
Jaden. We always forget Jaden Jackson
Sure.
is also a true freshman out there playing as many snaps as he is. So the future is bright, definitely, for Oklahoma.
It's going to be an interesting week as we head into a bye weekend. Obviously, a chance for Oklahoma fans, Oklahoma players certainly, to maybe put their feet up.
You and I need to get healthy.
Watch some college football.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good weekend.
I can't wait to just sit on my couch all weekend and watch football.
It's going to be great. There's nothing better than a bye week, but I also am excited about getting back down to Dallas, walking down
Best
the
weekend
ramp
of the
and
year.
getting into the Cotton Bowl. There's nothing like the State Fair of Texas. I know that El Prez, Dave Portnoy and crew are going to be down there. It's going to be awesome. I think Paul Feinbaum said he's going to probably try to be down there. We'll see what happens with game day and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know where game day is going to end
but
up.
for game day, maybe they end up at LSU, Ole Miss or something.
Ohio State,
and
Oregon, maybe?
SEC,
I don't know.
SEC Network maybe sends their crew down to the State Fair of Texas. Next week's a big week, obviously, here in Norman as well as Austin, and that's where we will catch back up with you on Monday. We'll have a recruiting report, obviously. I don't know if we'll do a game day rewind. We might talk to Josh to get his thoughts coming out of the weekend in terms of the Monday of OU Texas, everything that goes into that. So for George Stoya, I'm Eddie Radosevich. We'll see you right back here on the SoonerScoop.com YouTube channel.